Hello everyone, welcome to this session on what is AWS Cloud. Today in this session, we will be going through what AWS Cloud is and how would you basically relate it in the case when you have no idea about what cloud is and what servers are. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, let's discuss the agenda that we're going to cover today. So we're going to talk about what is AWS using the story of a startup. And then we're going to move on and talk about, once we understand what AWS is, we're going to talk about why is it actually required. Once we're done with that, we'll move on and talk about what are the different companies which are using AWS so that you can actually relate to it from the fact that if I learn AWS, what all companies can I apply to? And then we will move on and talk about a hands-on in AWS where I'll show you how you can launch your first server in AWS. Finally, we'll go ahead and see how we can get started in AWS if we are completely new to the cloud domain. So guys, this is the agenda for this session. I hope it's clear to you. Now let's go ahead and talk about the first topic, which is what is AWS. So guys, AWS is basically a cloud provider. And by a cloud provider, what I mean is AWS has servers of its own, which it gives to you on a rental basis. For example, let's say you need a 2 GB machine for some purpose, right? And you cannot spare your personal machine which is there at home, right? So what you can do is you can just ask AWS that can I get a 2 GB machine from you, and they will rent that machine to you on a per hourly basis. Okay, so that is what a cloud provider does. It basically rents you machine on per hour basis, right? So that you can make use of them and do your work. Now you will wonder, why will I need a separate machine of 2 GB, right? So let's go ahead and understand why of this use case by understanding a story. So let's say you are a guy and what you want to do is open a startup, and let's say that startup's name is Uber Eats. Okay, it could be any startup, it could be Instagram, it could be anything that you want to open. You have an idea and you want to go ahead and use this idea to open a company. Now, when you want to open a company, first of all, you will have to make this application which you have made available to the internet. Now, how will you do that? So, as a very basic necessity, what you will need is some servers where you will be hosting your application so that people, when they go on that particular web address, or when people download your application and when they open it, and if there is any data which is required, it can be fetched from your servers, right? So, what you need is a set of servers to start off with where you can deploy your application and where people can use it, right? So what how it used to happen earlier when the cloud did not exist was you used to buy your own servers. Okay, now you would say, yeah, I got the investment, why shouldn't I buy my own servers? Why should I rent it, right, when I can have my own servers? That seems like a logical thing, right? But there was a problem when you rent servers. Now let's understand what that problem is. Now, you being a young company, you have just launched the application, you're not expecting a million views the next day, right? But what happens if your app becomes a hit overnight? In that case, there are millions of people who are trying to access your application, but because of the less number of servers that you have, you are not able to serve all of them, and hence there is a lot of lag which is coming on your application. There's a lot of server timeout error which is coming on your application, and this makes you worried, and then you decide, okay, you know what, let me buy some few more servers, right? And mind you guys, servers are not cheap. Now let's say if you say let me buy a few more servers, I'm assuming that you have the right investment or you have the right saving in your account through which you have already foreseen all these circumstances, and now you're buying your own infrastructure for supporting your application, right? So let's say you get past that and you buy more servers. Now what happens is the app gets more hits on the subsequent day, and now these servers that you added, they also becomes obsolete, right? They also are not able to cater the huge traffic that your application is getting, right? And also at the same time, when you buy servers, it's not like you can make them up and running the moment you get them. First of all, the logistics take times, right? The time for you to order the server and to reach your company obviously it will take time. Then for you to install the necessary software and then to make your application available on it will again take time. The networking you have to take care of, the storage you have to take care of, everything has to be taken care of. So my point being, if today you encounter a problem, fixing it the same day probably will not be something which is possible for you when you're handling everything. Okay, so this was a problem. Second thing, one fine day, let's say your servers were running fine, and your servers suddenly they stopped working, right? Probably there's a problem in the hard drive, there's a problem in the RAM, there is some problem. Your servers shut down altogether, and now you do not know what to do because you are a guy who is an app developer who developed an app but is not someone who is good at, let's say, hardware. So now what you do is you hire a team which will now monitor your servers 24/7. So again, that's one more investment that you did when you are basically handling your own servers. Now let's say third thing happens, and what happens in this case is the server components fails, right? Let's say now the hard disk failed. You have a team, but that team now orders the parts, and those parts take 2 to 3 days to come to your company. Now that's again a loss on your part because of this hardware issues, you're not able to cater to your customers, right? And hence, your business is incurring a loss, and you just started it. It was a great idea. Everything, your app is working perfectly fine, but just because of your hardware issues, you were not able to cater, or you're not able to live up to the expectations of what your customer has, right? And the final part, let's say your hardware runs fine for 2 or 3 years, right? You set up a monitoring team, you stocked up all the hardware that was required to be replaced so that in the minimum time possible you can do everything. But let's say after 2 3 years, your processors, the hardware which you are using, it becomes obsolete, it becomes just slow with the new features that you added in your application. Now what do? Now you will have to replace the whole fleet of servers that you bought in order to meet the standards of the industry. Now that again is a huge investment. Now, how do you solve this kind of a problem in the era of not having cloud, right? So this was a huge problem, and because of this problem, you just wish that someone could handle all your infrastructure, all handle all the problems which your infrastructure is having, and you as an app developer, you could just develop the app and focus on the features that you want to have the app do, right? Why? Because you as a developer, you are basically more focused on how, or basically how to make more features on your application available. You're focused on how to make your customers experience better by probably adding more features to your application, but you're not able to do that because you're troubleshooting all the hardware problems that are coming with your application. Now, so that's when you basically call some tech friend of yours and he advises you to use the cloud. Now, when do you use the cloud? What happens? So all the things that you had a problem with, they're all taken care of by a cloud provider, right? So first of all, servers you do not have to buy, you can rent them, and you can rent them on the go. If you need a 2 GB machine, you can have it in under a minute from your AWS management console. If you feel that a lot of traffic has come in, you need a 64 GB minute machine, you can have it under a minute on the AWS management console. So everything happens very fast, and at the same time, you do not have to buy those servers, you just have to take them on rent, and that too on an hourly basis, right? So let's say, that surge in traffic which came, it only came for one day. The next day, the again traffic went back to normal. So in that case, you just pay for the server that you used for one day, and that would be it. Second thing is the all the hardware problems, all the maintenance problems, all is taken care by AWS, and the charges which are accounted to it are also taken care by AWS. You just have to pay the rent, and that is it. Right? You do not have any responsibility of managing any hardware problem which comes in the servers, any maintenance team which will be monitoring the servers. Everything is taken care by AWS. You just pay the rent. And if we talk about the rent, that rent is as low as 1 rupee per hour. That is how cheap a 2 GB machine is when you're using a cloud provider, right? So this is why this is the monetary front of why cloud providers have become such an important entity in today's IT world. And that is why companies have now started to shift to cloud as well, because with that they're actually leasing all their infrastructure to the cloud provider, and it's their job to upgrade the hardware, to maintain the hardware, etc. Okay. So now as a company, let's say, let's start over the stories. Now if you have an app which you want to deploy, you just take the servers from AWS, deploy the app over there, and forget about the hardware. You just work on your application, and then it will be fine. If you want to add more servers, you request AWS for more servers. Under a minute or so, the new servers will be added without you worrying about, I've just ordered it, will it come after 1 day or 2 day? You don't have to care about it, right? Everything will come under a minute to your infrastructure, whatever you desire. Okay, so this is what a cloud provider is, guys, and the most important part of it is there is no long term commitment. So the moment you feel that you don't require the extra servers that you probably rented the previous day, you can just stop them that day, or even after 5 or 10 minutes. If you want to stop them, you can stop them, and you will only be charged for those 5 or 10 minutes or 1 day that you have used the server for. That is the crux, that is the most important point as to why cloud providers are so popular. Okay. Now, with this, what are the kind of good things that you get? The app availability becomes good. So now your users, if your application, the code which you are responsible for is working fine, then everything from the cloud provider's end will be, working great, right? There will be no downtimes of your application once you have deployed it on the cloud provider. There will be no hardware issues reported by your users, because that is how that is how efficient the cloud providers have become. If we talk about AWS, they've been in the industry for the past 14 years now, and in the past 14 years they have so much learning that if a new guy like you starts its own company of handling servers, obviously to match AWS it will take years of experience to get to the level of what AWS is today, right? So that is how good it will be for your application once you deploy it on AWS. Now let's move ahead and talk about why only AWS. So this, what I've told you so far, is not just limited to AWS. It is actually the story of every cloud provider which is there in the market, be it Azure, be it Google Cloud, be it AWS, be it DigitalOcean. Every one of them is working on the same business model that I just explained you. But why should you go for AWS? Let's talk about that. So, guys, first of all, the first thing which comes into the mind of any person who wants to deploy their application onto the cloud is basically thinking, how mature is the company to which I'm giving my application to handle to. For example, let's say if there's a company which has been launched 6 months back, they won't have the kind of maturity to handle all the kind of problems which can arise versus a company which has been there in the industry since the past 14 years. So when we talk about AWS, it is the oldest player in the cloud market. It was launched way back in 2006. When you compare it with Azure, which was launched in 2010, which you compare it with GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform, which was launched in 2012, AWS has an upper hand when it comes to experience, and it has the least downtimes among all the cloud providers which are there in the market right now. Second thing is, it is widely recognized, which basically means there are a lot of people, a lot of companies who are using AWS right now. So you, as a professional who is thinking about their career, what to learn, if you learn AWS, 95% of the chances is whenever you go to a company, they will be using AWS infrastructure. I'll be talking about more about what companies use AWS, but there are 95% chances that the company that you're applying for, they will be using AWS infrastructure in one way or the other. Third thing is, it is cost effective. So your AWS is basically giving you billing per hour or per minute basis, and because of that, the even the prices which are per hour or per minute are very low. And because of that, anybody can actually deploy servers on cloud and become an entrepreneur if they have the right idea of their ID software, right? And the final point is why you should actually go for AWS is because AWS servers, it supports a lot of languages, right? You can, if you name the language, and that will be available on AWS for you to deploy, right? So that is again a very uh, good reason to shift to AWS. It's very developer friendly. It does not differentiate between you using a popular language or a language which is not actually used in the industry. If you name a language, you can have it deployed on AWS and you can run your application over it. Okay, now let's talk about some of the companies who are using AWS for their day-to-day needs, right? And these are the companies that you can actually apply to when you learn AWS, right? So there are companies like Netflix. So Netflix, the most popular video streaming service on the planet, is using AWS through and through for its infrastructure needs. So all the movies that you see, all the content that you see on the Netflix website, it's actually being hosted on the AWS infrastructure. If you talk about Expedia, which is basically a ticketing, it's a travel company, it also hosts its application and its website on the AWS infrastructure. Airbnb, which is again a popular hotel booking service, is again hosted on AWS. Adobe, you must be using a lot of Adobe products, or you might have used Adobe products sometime in your life. For example, the most famous one is Adobe PDF Reader. For all their infrastructure needs, they use AWS. Spotify, which is again a very popular music streaming service, all of its services are hosted on AWS. So on and so forth. There are a lot of companies which use AWS in the current uh, time that you are sitting in. And all these companies, since they're using AWS, if you know AWS, you can actually apply to them for a job role. Okay, moving forward, now let's go ahead and let me show you how you can basically deploy servers on AWS. So you have heard a lot about how good AWS is, but let me show you actually in real time how easy it is to deploy a server on AWS within the time span of 2 or 3 minutes. So let me just go back to my browser, and first of all, what you'll have to do is you'll have to sign in. So let me sign in to an AWS account, and let me enter my username over here. So this is my username. Let me enter the password as well. Okay, so I'm signed in now. Now what I'll do is I will go to, there's a popular service in AWS which is called EC2. Let me go inside it. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be launching a server. So let me go ahead and launch, let's say a Linux server, right? So let's see what are the steps for that. So I'll just click on launch instance. I'll select the operating system that I want to launch. I want to launch an Ubuntu system. So let's go ahead and click the Ubuntu one. Let's select that I want a T2.micro machine which has one CPU and 1 GB of RAM. Let's select it. Let's click on next. Then this is networking. So I'll just skip all these parts, click on launch. Let me create a new key pair and let me call it as AWS demo. Let me download it and let me click on launch instances now. So my instance is now being launched. So I think we have 1 minute into starting the hands-on, and we already have a server which is being launched now. It will take around 30 to 40 seconds to launch. And meanwhile, what I can do is, in order to connect with it, I will have to have this key pair that I just downloaded. So this will act as a password for me. So in order to use this, what I'll have to do is I will have to first convert this key pair into a PPK file. So let's enter the app name, which is puttygen, and let's convert it into PPK. And now I will save it onto my desktop. So I've saved it, and now I will connect to the server using the putty software. So what I'll do is I'll just put this IP address into my software, click on SSH, put the key that I've just created, and click on open. And here you go. I'm connected to my server. Let me just make it a little bigger so that all of us can see it. And now I'm connected to my server, right? And this took 2 to 3 minutes to have my own server on AWS. Now I can use this server to do anything. I can launch my own application over here, right? Let me just update the machine and let me launch a website which you guys can also access. So that will basically help you to realize what is the power of the servers that you're using here. So I'm just installing a software for hosting a website, and what I'll do is uh, let me go into changing the website that you guys can see. Don't mind me typing some code here over, guys, because given if you want to learn AWS, you don't actually have to know code, but if you know AWS, that should be enough to get you, a job as an AWS cloud engineer. Coding is actually not required when you want to become an AWS engineer. Okay, so this is my HTML file, and what I'll do is I'll just enter this IP address on the browser, and here you go. Uh, I think I'll have to do one more small change. I will have to open the firewall to allow me to connect. So let me quickly do that. So this is my firewall. It's called a security group. Uh, Let me edit the inbound rules and let me add a rule which says it should allow all traffic from anywhere in the world to connect to it. And now let me refresh, and you can see this is my website which I've just created, which is now hosted on a server. Okay, if you go to this IP address, which is 52.71.93.47, even you guys will be able to see this server. So you can go ahead right now and do this, and I'm pretty sure everybody of you will see this website. Okay, so go ahead, enter this IP address, and it will be given to you. Now, while you're doing that, let me not hold on to you. The server will be launched for another half an hour. You can go ahead and try it. Now, let me just come back to my slides and let me show you how you can actually get started. So, what I've showed you right now in AWS is just a millimeter of the huge opportunity that you have in AWS to learn, right? So how do you learn such a vast, for such a vast cloud provider? How do you go ahead and get started? So let me guide you a little bit into that. So guys, first of all, when we talk about free content, we have a lot of blogs which you can actually go ahead and visit on our Intellipaat website, right? You can just go ahead, type in intellipaat.com/blog, and that would take you to our website, and this is all the blogs that we have written till date, right? We have blogs on various domains, so you can go ahead and touch base on that. So what you would be interested right now would be in cloud computing. So if you click over there, we have a lot of blogs on cloud, which you can actually go ahead and start learning from. Okay, so these are just some of the blogs that you can see. You can learn a lot of things from here in this section. Other than that, we also have, our own community where you can go ahead and ask questions from experts around the world, right? So you just have to go to intellipaat.com/community. You can sign up over here and you can ask a lot of questions. So a lot of people have already asked questions and they've all got their answers. So you can go over here, raise a question if you have, and that should also be able to, give you answers to whatever technical queries you have. So it's not only limited to AWS, it could be any technical knowledge that you want to gain, which you can go ahead and ask a question here and you will surely get a reply. Also, what you can do is you can actually go ahead and go to our uh, website on intellipaat.com/academy. So a lot of people among you, you guys frequently ask us for free courses. So what we have done is we have made some free courses available on our website. So you can go ahead and see all these free courses, right? So we have free courses on Java, C and data structures, Excel, SQL, AI, AWS, DevOps. So all these are available over here, and the link is intellipaat.com/academy. So you can go here, check out all the free courses we have, enroll yourself into it, and then decide whether you actually want to go in that technology or not, right? Other than that, we also happen to have, our premium courses. So what we have on our academy page, they are basically going to help you to get started in that technology. But if you want to, make a career out of that technology, we also happen to serve some premium courses which you can enroll yourself into. For example, if I type in AWS, we have a course on AWS as well, right? In which we teach a lot of things, including what I have shown you today. We teach you about storage volumes, we teach you about databases, we teach you about DNS, we teach you about monitoring applications, we teach you about configuration management, migration, a lot of other things we teach you in this AWS course, and you can go ahead and enroll yourself into it if you want to shift your career onto cloud. Right now, we always run offers on our website, guys. So if you are interested, you can actually go ahead and type in this offer, which is YouTube 30, and that will give you a flat 30% off on all our premium courses, and then you can go ahead and enroll. You also might get all the numbers that you can contact to, on the chat. You can just click on those, or you can just dial in those numbers, and there is a pool of course advisors that are available from our side, which you can talk to and decide which career option you actually want to go to, right? If you want to become an AI engineer, a cloud engineer, any engineer that you want to become, you want to become a developer, you want to become an admin, you want to become an architect, any technology that you want to deal upon, you're thinking in your head whether you're doing the right decision or not, talk to our course advisors. They're all experts in guidance, they're all experts in career support. They will be giving you a right guidance as to what you should do. Even if you don't want to buy the course, call them and they will surely be addressing all your queries. Okay, so with that, guys, I'd like to take a leave from you. The numbers are displayed on the screen. You can call us, right? And if you want to email us, you can also email us at sales@intellipaat.com, and that should give you all the details that is required. Also, one good thing that you can actually take away from this session is that now that you know about what cloud is, you can make a decision whether you want to shift your domain to the cloud or not. And when you think about why should I buy a premium course, the very simple answer to that is all our courses are basically taught by industry experts. So there will be an instructor who is himself an AWS architect or himself is an AWS developer who will be teaching you and will be giving you insights into production, how things happens in production, what can be asked to you in interviews, and at the same time, let's say the class will be around a 3 hour or a 2 hour class based on whether you take a weekday batch or a weekend batch. What also is given to you is 24/7 support, right? So 24/7 technical support is made available to you, so that let's say even after the class, if you have doubts, you can simply call us and we will be helping you out with any technical query that you have. So with that said, guys, I thank you all for joining in today. I hope you guys have learned something new. Please go ahead and spread the word about the cloud, how good the cloud domain is. And if your friends are interested in learning something new, you can always refer them to Intellipaat, ask them to visit a free courses, see what is the quality that we offer, and make an informed decision. Okay, so I thank you all for joining today. Have a great day ahead, and goodbye.